It takes skill to sail peacefully through the divided landscapes of today's culture. Division is sown deeply in today's world. It seems almost anything can become a political wedge. You'll recognize these issues because they almost invariably cause stress as people scramble to take sides. Vaccines, abortion, religion, diet, environment, can add more gun control. These are all just these are some of the kind of topics that are hot today. And it really doesn't matter whether it's today or 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago, this kind of divided, opposing sides uh, issue comes to the forefront a lot. Whether it's liberal versus conservative, whether it's race against race, or religion versus religion. The world somehow wants to draw hard lines against each other and to fight. And they want us to take sides. So, how do you navigate these dangerous waters, if you may, where one wrong turn can destroy your ship? One way, of course, is to never set sail. Just avoid the whole thing, kind of stay in your cave. I can relate to that idea. Just keep your head in the sand, right? That's one way. But it's not the only way to remain unstressed in today's world. It's actually possible to participate in divisive discussions without getting overwhelmed. It's possible to even to be passionate about something without getting stressed. It just depends on how you see it. Stress, in my experience, comes from attachment and from fear. When I'm attached to being right, I feel threatened when somebody challenges me. And when I fear disapproval, I hide my views from others. So either way, I'm attached, and that attachment leads to an experience of stress within myself. What if those attachments and fears were not there? Would the same discussions about these same issues be as stressful? Let's take vaccines, for example. There are two camps with vaccines. One is they are really important, everyone should do them. And the other is they're dangerous, no one should do them. And these couldn't be more diametrically opposed points of view. And of course, on top of that, it's all or nothing. Either you get vaccinated or you don't. There's no middle ground, seemingly. If you look more closely, the topic revolves around fear. Like there's a fear in people, fear of this pandemic, fear that the pandemic will get worse if we don't get the vaccines on the one side, and then fear that the vaccines will make health worse by causing other health problems on the other side. So both sides are driven to some degree by fear. At least that's how you can get caught up in the emotional version of these discussions. So this makes any discussion between two fearful people on opposite sides become very emotional. It's like it's a discussion, but once you bring in the fear factor, it becomes an emotional discussion, and that is a much more stressful kind of experience. It's like each side is fighting for survival. This is now personal, this is dire, this is extreme, and so you start seeing the other side as like, evil, right? those thoughts come up. The enemy, the opposite of a human being. And so we start thinking of wanting to destroy the other side or to take them down or to somehow make them, force them into submission somehow. And this is not conducive for any kind of peaceful discussion. But what if each side questioned its fearful thinking? If you're accustomed to doing the work of Byron Katie, you're no stranger to questioning fears. It's a very simple yet very profound idea here. I have a fear, and just because I have a fear doesn't mean that it can't be questioned. So when I take a thought and question it, I began to open my mind to other sides of that same situation, but I'm starting to see it from other points of view. And in my experience, the fear often goes very much down. So, for example, the thought, the other camp, whatever it is, whatever your vaccine camp is, the other camp threatens my health, right? So one side of the vaccine fight might be saying, you know, people who don't get vaccinated are threatening my health. And that could be a very stressful thought. The other side might be saying people who get vaccinated are threatening my freedom, So whatever is being threatened here, I'm taking a side and I'm having a fear that I'm going to lose something. I'm going to lose my health. I'm going to lose my freedom. I'm going to lose my wealth, whatever it is. So doing the work on a statement like this, the other camp threatens my fill in the blank, can be a way of starting to open up to see other sides of it. How do I react when I believe the thought that someone is threatening my health? The whole story of conflict is built into this thought. With that, it's like I become like protective. I become defensive. I become angry. I become belligerent. I become really. I begin to fight. And who would I be without the thought? I would start to see good people on both sides of this artificial divide, conceptual divide. I start to see similarities dominating now instead of these charged differences. We may still disagree. There may be different policies that we favor, and there may be some actually interesting discussions coming out if I'm not so rigidly closed to the other point of view and rigidly attached to my point of view. So another piece of this is the thought, I am right, right? This is like built into this kind of division. I am right. And when I believe that I'm right, watch out. And this is serious. This is important. So if I'm right, I'm not even going to listen to your point of view. So what if you question that thought? I am right. Is it true? Who would you be without the thought, I'm right? I'd be listening. I'd be putting my cards on the table. I would be willing to share my vulnerable points of view. I'd be willing to discuss, I'd be willing to engage. There would be way less charge. And if in the end it's unclear what is true, the discussion would not get stuck on that. There wouldn't even be a need to find an absolute truth. Both sides are open. They realize that there's truth on both sides. And I think that's where sometimes this really does get stuck, is that when I need to be right, then there has to be a winner, there has to be a loser, there has to be an absolute. And so we try to find some absolute truth. But many of these issues actually have a lot of gray area, and it's just very hard to make one side the absolute. So being open, realizing that there's truth on both sides, this is how humans interact when they're not stressed. They respect each other. They listen carefully. They share opposing points of view with kindness, without force. But this way of interacting is only possible when the mind is not attached to being right. So I always love this work of Byron Katie because it's such a simple way to begin questioning these thoughts that I'm attached to. And when I question them, my attachment often loosens. And when my attachment loosens, I become a more gentle, more loving, more easily, a person who's more easily able to interact with others in a stress-free way. So I encourage you to notice your stressful thoughts on this or any other divisive issue and question your thoughts by filling in a Judge Your Neighbor worksheet. This is perfect setup for a Judge Your Neighbor worksheet. Just focus on someone on the other side or on the other side as a group and write a worksheet. Then when you go through and question the statements that you wrote on your worksheet, you may start to see that there is a middle ground, that there is not an absolute, and that there's more option besides just fight or flight. a way that feels peaceful inside, even when others may be still defensive. If you want to practice doing this work, I encourage you to take the Work 101 course, which I offer starts every 3 months or so. And in that course, you'll spend time unraveling the thoughts that bind you, whatever they may be. So let's end with a quote from Byron Katie, and this is from the book A Mind at Home with Itself. Fear is born only to words believed. What believes those words is a concoction of prior words believed. Who started all this confusion? You did. Who can end it? Only you.